feminine energy,
high value woman,
masculine energy,
feminine energy,
high value provider, men,
feminine energy,
high value woman.
The entire femininity movement is delusional, and the women pushing it are living proof it leads to settling for desperate, low-quality men. Before YouTube dating coaches, before TikTok, before the femininity movement even had a name, there was Lala Kent.
I let him hit it the first night and we were inseparable. First night we banged, I got a car the next day. He was like, do you want a Range Rover? I was like, yeah.
Lala was a cast member on the reality TV show Vanderpump Rules. She was young, attractive, and only 25 years old, trying to build a career for herself in Hollywood when she began dating Randall Emmett, a successful movie producer who was 20 years older than her. Their relationship played out publicly on one of the most popular reality shows at the time. She was a young, beautiful woman who just happened to fall in love with an older, much less attractive man, and he in return appeared completely enamored with her, spoiling her, protecting her, and willing to do anything for her. As the relationship grew more serious, Lala and Randall got engaged and had a child together. It seems like Lala had finally gotten her happily ever after, until it started to fall apart, because behind the scenes, Randall Emmett was allegedly facing serious financial and legal problems. There were reports of massive debt, repeated infidelity, and inappropriate behavior with other women. Once the news broke, Lala Kent was forced to walk away. She took her child, called off the engagement, cut ties with Randall Emmett, and stepped away from the luxurious lifestyle she once showcased. She moved back into an apartment and entered a nasty custody battle over their daughter. Lala has said that sharing custody with Randall and living with the consequences of the choices she made at 25 remains a nightmare to this day. That's why Lala Kent is a cautionary tale, because femininity coaches never talk about what happens when these relationships collapse or the damage that follows. That's the part this movement never admits. The short period of comfort and luxury rarely justifies the long-term consequences. And Lala's situation isn't rare. It's the most common outcome of these arrangements. And the reason so many women walk straight into it is because influencers online are actively selling it as the dream goal. One of the biggest being the Wizard Liz. The Wizard Liz became one of the most influential creators in the pink pill movement. She built a massive platform by filming videos of herself yelling into a camera about feminine standards, seduction, and relationship dynamics. Her advice, like most influencers in the space, is built on one main rule: masculinity equals money. So if a man can financially provide, he's labeled as a high-value man. But the rule is actually the main problem. Yes, there was a time when wealth was a reasonable filter on a man's character, but it was before the internet, when men couldn't just wake up rich, and the path to wealth actually required discipline, restraint, and consistency. But today, anyone willing to abandon shame or self-awareness can get rich by chasing social media attention or trends, which is why money no longer signals masculinity. It signals opportunism. And opportunistic men behave the same way in relationships. They get in, cash out, and move on. They never had to develop real discipline, commitment, or sacrifice to get where they are, so they don't have those qualities to bring into relationships. That's why femininity gurus framing rich men as masculine and ideal partners is terrible advice for this generation. Which is why the Wizard Liz's platform was always rooted in delusion. She presented herself as a high-value woman who would only choose a masculine provider. But the man she chose was a gaming YouTuber, and that choice alone shows she never understood masculinity to begin with. A man whose career revolves around playing video games, chasing dopamine and online validation, does not embody sacrifice, discipline, or leadership. He is a perfect example of everything wrong with the modern man, and why money no longer has any correlation with masculinity. While she was pregnant and engaged, she found out he was cheating on her with other women. Now she is a single mother co-parenting with him and trying to regrow her platform. Which brings us back to the core issue. Her advice never had credibility because she was never an expert in what she claimed to teach. The advice itself was always wrong, and when her own life followed it, the outcome was exactly what you would expect. She is not the only example. Everything I'm about to explain comes directly from what she chose to share publicly. I'm talking now about the content creator, the new trophy wife. She had a popular YouTube channel where she taught women how to level up in order to attract a man who could financially provide for them. She became a mother very young, and by her early 20s, she already had 2 sons. She explained that she used to date men who didn't provide until she learned how to level up, elevate her appearance, and raise her standards. She briefly dated the man she would later marry, left him for someone else, and moved in with the other man instead. After that relationship ended, she went back to the first man because she needed a place to live. He agreed, but only if she married him. Within a week, they went to the courthouse, got married, and she moved into his home with her children. After they married, they had 2 daughters together. She continued building her brand under the name The New Trophy Wife, giving advice to other women and positioning herself as an expert on securing a provider, until everything took a devastating turn. At the height of her platform, she uploaded a video titled, "I Married a Monster." sister. In that video, she stated that her daughters came forward and disclosed inappropriate behavior by their father. She said she took her children to the hospital for medical exams, contacted authorities, and immediately removed her children from the home. Shortly after, her channel was deleted and her brand disappeared entirely. She is a clear example of where this advice can lead. She moved quickly from one man to the next. Her housing and stability were always tied to whichever man she was with. And this is what happens when women follow this advice. When commitment is rushed in exchange for fast security, the ability to properly judge a man's character is lost. And when money becomes the main filter, serious red flags get ignored. Women following this advice need to stop for a minute and actually think about it, because it's completely delusional. The truth is, men who are emotionally stable, grounded, and suitable for marriage do not agree to financial demands from women they have just started dating. Not because they can't provide, but because they have judgment, boundaries, and standards. A quality man values what he has built. He wants to see consistency, character, and mutual respect over time before taking responsibility for a woman's life. That's how hypergamy works when it's healthy. It's about marrying well, not marrying fast. So when a man offers financial assistance to a woman before things have even had time to get serious, he is not a high-value provider man like they try to tell you. He's desperate. He isn't choosing you. He'll spend money on any woman willing to stay because women with standards won't tolerate him. That's why the next woman who asks will get the same generous offer. Men with structure, boundaries, and self-control invest slowly and intentionally. Men without those qualities rush money to secure access. This is why modern femininity advice is nonsense, because every time it will push away men who would be good husbands and fathers and leaves women with desperate men who cling to anyone who will stay. There is nothing wrong with wanting a traditional man. Women should want a man who can protect, provide, and build stability. The real problem is the internet's advice. Emotionally healthy men move with intention, not desperation, which is why femininity coaches' own relationships aren't healthy marriages to look up to. Their husbands threw money at them from the beginning, not because these women were special, but because any woman willing to stay would have worked. These men aren't high quality. They're desperate and weird, and that's why they ended up with low-quality women who humiliate them for content. The last person to tie this all together is SheraSeven. She's the blueprint for this entire movement, and almost every femininity influencer you see today is just a watered-down copy of her. But she is probably the biggest fraud of all. If you go back and watch her old videos, it's very obvious what actually happened. In the beginning, her lifestyle did not reflect the luxury life she claimed her husband provided. As her views went up, her income went up. As her income went up, her lifestyle improved. Her entire brand is built on the claim that her husband funded her life from the start, which is clearly untrue. And how she frames her relationship itself is the biggest sign that she is a fraud. Her entire brand is built on disrespecting her husband. She openly says she doesn't like him. She constantly talks about being with him for money, and she publicly mocks the relationship any chance she gets. The truth is that no healthy man would tolerate that. An actual, traditional, honorable man deeply cares about reputation, family name, and legacy. He would walk away from public disrespect immediately. So when you see a man staying in a dynamic like this, it tells you everything you need to know. SheraSeven is the face of what's wrong with this movement. She herself can't teach women how to marry up because she never did, and it's obvious to anyone with common sense. This is how there's now an entire industry of copycats repeating the same talking points without understanding relationships, marriage, or long-term stability at all. Because when you look at marriages that people genuinely admire, none of them look like this. The reality is that this content sells the lie that it leads to a soft life with a masculine provider man, when in reality, it attracts desperate, creepy men. Comment your thoughts down below and let me know if you'd like a full guide on healthy hypergamy.